I want to go back to that first meeting where I spoke briefly to the group, told them about that in my opinion that there was a state guaranteed right to organize. And then the subject of affiliating with the UFW came up. And the workers, I don't know how this came about, but the workers wanted me to get in touch with Cesar Chavez in California. And I didn't feel that this was my role. You know, I was an Anglo. I was a lawyer. I wasn't a labor organizer. And I felt that that should be a role assumed by someone else. But the organizers, Gamboa and others, said, no, the workers, you know, you go ahead and do this. See if you can make this contact. So I first called a fellow named Jerry Cohen, who was the general counsel of the UFW in California. I think I had found out who he was before I went over there. At any rate, I had a phone number for him. I called and I explained the situation with these wildcat strikes. I told him a little bit about Washington state law, and I said, these workers want me to talk with Chavez if he's available. Is there a way that this could occur? So he says, well, Cohen told me, wait, I'll talk to him, and took the phone number. And about a half an hour later, Cesar Chavez calls this phone. It's in the office of this movie theater in Granger, Washington. And he asked for me. I get on the phone with him. He asked me to explain what's going on there. He also asked, I think, to speak with Gamboa, who I think he had met before in California. I don't know if he remembered Lupe at that point, but and then I remember after I gave this explanation, he said, I want to speak with one of the workers. And so one of the workers was selected, got on the phone, talked to him, and that was very significant. That really affected the mood of the farm workers who were at this meeting, that one of their workers had talked with Cesar Chavez, who was, you know, was very well known to these workers because of all of the publicity that the union was getting at that point through the grape boycott and other activities. And so the workers voted that they wanted to somehow affiliate themselves with the UFW. And after this phone call, I can't remember exactly how it took place, but Chavez assigned the treasurer of the union, a guy named Rudy Ahumada, Ahumada, to come up to the Yakima Valley. And he came up the next day and was here for about 2 or 3 days, and saw that this was in fact a real movement, and reported back, and the union decided to involve itself in the Yakima Valley, and several of the organizers went to work as staff for the union, including Gamboa, who dropped out of law school at that point to become a UFW organizer. So the people that were involved as organizers at that point were Lupe Gamboa, Roberto Trevino, and Carlos Trevino. There may have been others who became staff of the union, but those are the ones that I remember initially. And so that meeting in Granger was a real eye-opener to me. I mean, it was quite an experience. Here I am, I'm a year out of law school. I'm inexperienced. At that point I hadn't tried any significant cases. I mean, cases that would be attention grabbers. And all of a sudden, within a week of getting there, I'm involved in this case that I realized could be extraordinarily important on protecting the right to organize, the Garza versus Patnode case. And that experience really changed my life. I mean, it got me deeply involved in this social movement and I continued to act as the lawyer for the UFW from that point, September 1970, until I was appointed as a judge at the King County Superior Court in February of 1988. And I had, no matter where I was working, I was representing the union. I worked for a number of different organizations. I worked for Seattle Legal Services, and then I went to work directly for the union as what was called National Counsel. I went to Washington, D.C. for a period of about 6 months, where I worked on problems there under Jerry Cohen. And then I came back to the Seattle area. We closed the National Counsel's office, decided it was not really a productive use of my time, and I went back and we set up an office called the Northwest Labor and Employment Law Office, the acronym being LELO, L-E-L-O, and that was a cooperative effort by the UFW, the United Construction Workers Association, and a group called the Alaska Cannery Workers Association, where they cooperatively got together, put a board of directors together, and the concept was that we would have lawyers with me as the head lawyer representing these 3 minority labor organizations. And so for 4 years I worked there and did a number of things on behalf of all of those organizations, but including the UFW. And then in 1977, Evergreen Legal Services was established and was going to set up a farm worker division of lawyers specifically to represent farm workers in the Yakima Valley, with an office in Sunnyside. And I went to work with Evergreen at that point as the litigation coordinator responsible for the farm worker division office. And we put together a very strong office of dedicated lawyers, all of whom either spoke Spanish or learned Spanish. And we eventually had about 6 or 7 lawyers representing farm workers full time. And we're very closely aligned with the UFW movement and trying to take cases that would help the union in its organizing efforts, which had been sort of moribund during the years from, I would say, from about 1973 to 76, but started to heat up again in 1977. And Lupe Gamboa actually went to work for Evergreen in the farm worker division, and he was key to making sure that we were involved with really important issues that were involved with UFW organizing. And then when I joined a private law firm in 1981, I reached an agreement with the law firm that didn't take much to persuade them that I should continue to represent the UFW on a pro bono basis if they needed it. And the law firm, which at that point was known as Houghton, Cluck, Coughlin, and Riley, they were agreeable with that, so I continued to represent the union and had several cases on behalf of the union during the years between 1981 and 1988 when I became a Superior Court judge.